27 July was a sad day for millions as India lost its most loved former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He was and will remain an ideal for the youth for all times to come. Millions of Indian youth were inspired to dream big by the missile man. Kalam's books, speeches and interactive sessions with children across the country went a long way in propelling the youth to work hard to turn those dreams into a reality. Kalam never talked over with the youth, he talked with them. He went down to the level understandable by the person he was speaking to, whether school children or IIM students. That's why young people connected to him and loved him so much. Today we remember Kalam as a youth icon. Welcome to Gender Discourse. I'm Lottie Alaric. To carry this discussion forward, I have in the studio a distinguished panel of guests, and I'm very happy to have with me Ms. Kalyani Shankar, who's a senior journalist and has worked with him closely. So thank you so much for being here with us. Then we're also joined by Ms. Anita Rampal, who's an educationist and the former Dean, Faculty of Education, Delhi University. I welcome you to the show. And I'm very happy to have with me a young boy. He's Praveen. He's an IIT student and very categorically says that I must mention that he's in the 4th year of his graduation. So thanks for being here, Praveen. So, Kalyani, let me just begin with you. I think we all really know about his achievements, and not just India, the world over people know about his achievements. But when we start talking about Kalam as the person, particularly somebody who the youth really looked up to, what would you like to say as your initial thoughts?
Well, you see, he had consciously built up his image, and like you said, he was talking with the children.
Yes.
So he was able to communicate with them effortlessly, and he identified the youth, particularly youth from the middle class, because he had two constituencies. One was middle class, the other one was a youth. So both these constituencies he developed very, very carefully. And in this 5 years when he was in Rashtrapati Bhavan, he managed to, from where to where you can see the way people are, really loving him today. You could make out the from where to where he has moved up. So that is one thing that he has decided, that he would be the icon of the youth. And youth in the sense is not only the 15 teens. He also goes to school, and young children also. He could talk to them, and then he could interact with them at their level. That is very important. We always talk, you look down upon the child, so whether the child will understand or not. But he was not like that. He was a child himself. He was childlike. I wouldn't say he was a child. He was very childlike, and the language he used was understandable by the children and also the youth. For the youth, he had a different thing. He talked about dreams. He told them how they should come up in life and what they should do. He had described all these things in his Vision 2020. That was the first thing he wrote about, and which he always talked about in all his speeches and wherever he went. So that is how he managed to build up a constituency for himself, which clicked very well. And he was, you may recall that he was the first president to invite children for the Republic Day reception and Independence Day reception. So he called them, and then he interacted with them, and they were brought to the evening tea, which the president hosts for the VVIPs of the city, and they were given equal pride of place. So those children who attended will never forget that incident. He had gone ahead with the purpose, and he was successful in what he attempted to.
Right. So Anita, I think that's how we would all also like to remember him. And I think what I'm really gathering is that he was most approachable. Of course, he was such an affable human being, and he was most approachable because in that position, that's the highest position of our country. Now, it's very, people will not even dream that they would get to see a person like that. But here, there's a man who invites children to his home and who, interacts with them the way we have talked about. So this really talks a lot about him. What would you say?
I agree, because especially in this age, there are very few politicians who can actually engage with children.
That's right.
And who can speak to them in sort of an equal respect, not patronizing, not talking down. And as Kalyani ji just said, he actually made a conscious effort, because I remember when he became a president, there were a lot of questions amongst the young people. Our own students were asking that, this image of a sort of militaristic kind of missile person?
Yes.
Has that gained him that power and that position? Because any other scientist would not normally get this kind of
this
importance.
position, right.
And so, you know, people were concerned and saying that that's not a very inspiring image for us, because a person who's, you know, I'm talking of nuclear science and nuclear policy and nuclear energy and nuclear weapons is not what can inspire young people to work for the others, so to say. So I think that, as she pointed out, he did make a very conscious effort. He sort of grooved himself into that and then made himself, and as a person he was very affable. So he had to kind of do away with an image which had been there,
Right.
and then work for this constituency, and then really make an effort, because people say that if he made a promise, even after some years, when he got a chance, he would give that person a chance to meet him, give him access or give her access, and I think that really mattered for the young.
And that ticked with the people, I think.
That ticked and that inspired. And even though there were questions about, you know, what he may have written or he may have said, but an overall accessible image who cared for the young then became something that really prevailed.
That's right. Now, Praveen, I think you were one of those fortunate students who had the opportunity of being a part of a lecture that I think he delivered in your institution.
Actually, I would like to share
Yes.
the incidents. 10 years back, I was invited at Dev Sanskriti Vishwavidyalaya. It's in Haridwar.
Okay.
They had this convocation program, and they organized a competition all through India. And I stood third in Bihar, so they invited me.
Right.
So I got this opportunity to interact with him. That interaction actually changed my life
Okay.
in two ways. The first thing, that people like me who come from very humble background and who do not have much of resource, he is an inspiration,
Right.
because I can connect to him, because the way he achieved from the ground to the president,
That's right.
that's what actually inspires me. And actually that is something that even today inspires me to do something and to dream, because the most important thing is people from rural areas or very modest background,
Right.
they do not dream.
Correct.
And he wanted to dream, to let them dream. So for me personally, that changed my life. Actually, I dreamed, and along with me, my family started dreaming. And you won't believe, actually, when I came to Delhi, my parents took loan
Okay.
for my studies. And then actually, because I dreamed, and along with me they dreamed. And when I came here, I prepared for IIT. And actually, not coming to IIT is one thing, but again, I dream. I dream to make a better India.
Great.
That's what actually he wanted, and that's actually what inspires me.
Absolutely. So here's an example, you know, of what we were really talking about. I think, Kalyani, what he mentioned is the connect, you know, the connect that he had with the youth, and they were inspired to the level where they also want to emulate the man. They want to be like him, and you can see it in his eyes. So, and there must be many out there. So this really because, you know, many people talk big, and we do know, we see them all the time, but how many people really mean it, and then it reaches the hearts of the people who one is addressing?
Well, you see, actually, he not only connected with the people, he also looked very sincere.
Right.
And people believed what he said. And when he says about the dream, they really believe that they can also dream and they can also become a president someday. So that kind of, the confidence which he was able to instill in the children and the youth, that certainly is something admirable, I would say.
True.
So that's something which everybody else are not able to do it. You know, there are so many leaders, and strangely enough, he was not a politician, and all his life he was a bureaucrat, and he was a scientist, he was a technocrat.
That's right.
So he was in the system. But then suddenly he was catapulted to become the president of this country. So I remember those days, some of the ministers under whom he worked.
Right.
And when he became the president, protocol-wise, he is much higher than even the cabinet ministers. So he used to feel quite embarrassed to, to receive them and things like that.
Right.
But then he got over it very soon, and he adjusted himself very well. And he was very, very, the simplicity and the childlike behavior, and also the communicative skills. These are the, when you look at the man, he doesn't inspire you just like that. He has the long hair. People say that
and he also said that I may not be handsome, but I can give my hand to somebody to help him up.
Yeah, and he always had long hair. So somebody said because he has got half ear, I believe, in the other ear.
Okay.
So that is why he grew long hair.
Right.
And then he didn't get married. And when somebody asked him, he always says that I don't want to give my time for my family. I want to spend all my time for the country. So
it was a conscious effort.
Conscious effort.
Right.
So that was something which he really did. And as I said, the most important thing is to instill confidence in the youth. And he was, I'm sure you must have heard that he was nominated twice, once in 2003 and once in 2006 for the MTV Youth Icon.
Okay.
Can you imagine from where to
Right,
where?
from
And
where
he was a
to
president of India. When he was a president, he was nominated once. And after, twice actually, 2006 also, 2007 only he gave up. So MTV is he's a rock star kind of thing.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
Even there he was able to make a mark. So it's a really tremendous thing for a man who looked like him and who behaved like him. And he never believed in protocol.
Oh yes,
he was so. I remember
as a journalist, I'm sure you will have some examples to give us.
Let me tell you my one personal
please.
thing. My son got married, so I went to invite him. He said, "Look, I don't want to come because they'll have a lot of security arrangements. All that it will ruin the atmosphere. So you bring the bride and the bridegroom to my house, and I'll give you tea." Very sweet of him.
Yeah.
So we went there. My daughter also came. We went there. So when we went there and he made us sit down all that, and he started talking to the youngsters only. He never bothered about what I had to say. So he was talking to them, and he was talking about my daughter was working in the Austin University. He started talking about teaching again. And then he was, and then suddenly after all this meeting was over, he got up and said, "Come, I'll show you my Mughal garden."
Okay.
So he went to the door, and the Rashtrapati Bhavan door on the left side is the door. He suddenly went and opened the door. Then we also trooped out, but his security people called suddenly, but it was not part of the thing. So they came running, where is the president going? And he took us around and showed the Mughal garden, and then it was around 6:37. It was almost dark. But he did it, it was something which I can never forget.
Yes.
I mean, as a
it's a
journalist,
very warm gesture.
Yeah, it's a very warm gesture. And this is how he makes people remember him. Like he said, Praveen said. So there are things which he is able to make people remember him. So that is another art which nobody else seems to have got.
Actually right. It's so interesting to really talk about Mr. Kalam. Well folks, we'll have to slip into a very short break right now. When we come back, we'll be opening our phone lines, and you too can participate in the show. The numbers are on your screen, and which are 1800115314 and 23035420. Today we are talking about Kalam, the youth icon. Welcome back. You're watching Gender Discourse, and today we are talking about Kalam, the youth icon. Well, friends, I'm very happy to welcome our fourth guest for the day. She's Dr. Sheetal Sharma. She's a sociologist at the JNU. So thank you for being here. And if you're thinking of calling us, then stop thinking and just pick up your phone and call us at 1800115314 and 23035420. Now, Anita, talking about dreams, everybody says that he gave the youth the ability to dream, and if I remember correctly, he said that dreams are not what you see, what you have when you are sleeping. Dreams are something that will not really let you sleep. Now, this is a very, very strong statement, and if anybody just understands it and goes after it, I'm sure would be a great achiever in their own lifetime also. What would you say?
Actually, what I find more significant is not just dreaming, but dreaming for what? Because unfortunately what's happened now, and we work in education, so for us this is very important, that people are thinking of education too much for themselves. Me, my marks, my degree, my job, my money, it's all for yourself. Whereas our education policies have always said education is really to move beyond yourself and think of people around you, think of those who haven't had that opportunity which you are getting. And I think that is important, because again what he was voicing was not so much as you be the achiever, but you achieve only when you help many others get their dreams. And for me that kind of qualification is so crucial for amongst young people, more so today than in our generation. You know? So this is what we have found, that young people are thinking of, you know, even if they're not really reading so much in terms of what he was writing, but they are thinking of some icon there who is reminding them of the undone tasks, of the tasks that need to be done for people around you, and the fact that you are getting the state to help you, fund you, IIT or whatever, the state helps you get, you know, that education, and then what is your responsibility?
That's right.
It's not just for yourself.
Correct.
And very few people are reminding the youth about this today. When you look around us.
Absolutely.
No one talks about it. It's only, you know, I'll do this and then I'll get this job and I'll go abroad. I mean, it's only me and my marks.
That is right. That is right. So, Praveen, when you heard that lecture, when you were part of it, what else did he really talk about that went and really touched a chord somewhere among the students?
Actually, the other thing that actually touched me was to be a good human being. Because to be successful, that is one thing.
Yes.
And to be a good human being, that is the other thing.
True.
So I think that you should have, I mean, he inspires to be a good human being. So that is one thing that two things that I actually took him. The other was to be a good human being. Yeah.
Right. So does that mean, Dr. Sheetal, that in today's times, when mostly people say that these days there's really nobody out there whom you can idealize, but here's this man whom we are all seeing, you know, the kind of reactions that have been coming in and the kind of adulation that we've been seeing now. So what would you say, that was he really an ideal candidate to be the youth icon?
Lottie, what you have said is absolutely right, that he was an ideal candidate to be called as a youth icon, and I'll build up upon the argument where the other panelists have left. See, Praveen has said a very good thing in the sense of, you know, talking about not just excellence in terms of academics, scoring good marks, but excellence or developing yourself as a good human being. Say, for instance, you do not want a very arrogant and callous 99% scoring engineer or a doctor.
Right.
What you would like to interact with somebody who is humble, whom you can remember. And what are we remembering in Dr. Kalam today is all his humility, his grace, his ability to connect to people. And whatever you read about him, all the, you know, the kind of coverage that has been given to him, everything mentions, you know, a kind of common word, that is people's president. Nobody is saying that, you know, he was holding the topmost position of the country and he was doing this, foreign policy, diplomacy, nothing. Everybody is remembering Dr. Kalam for how he connected to people, what he conveyed to them to be a fine or refined human being. And this is what is actually the essence of the personality. And this is what people remember. You know, in this sense. And one more thing I would like to add to, you know, to this entire debate is that if you look for the keywords that sum up his personality, they are also positive, energy generating words like, say, dream, vision, inclusive, growth, development, achievement. Now, if you make a list of all these 10 keywords, what do they indicate? They indicate a kind of, you know, a desire to instill a positive energy among people.
Absolutely.
That is, you go achieve it, you go get it, you dream for something, you try hard for something. So look at the entire philosophy around which his life was woven. Absolutely positive, energy generating, and very absolutely rightly said, you know, that typically an ideal character.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we have with us Mr. Bhaskar Chaudhary from Chhattisgarh. So, Mr. Bhaskar, welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I would like to express my views through a few lines of my poem, which I wrote actually the very evening when he passed away. It's in Hindi although, but I would like to express. कलाम माने हमारे दिल की गहराइयों से निकल कर छा जाने वाला कोई कलाम. कलाम माने मिसाइल मैन. कलाम माने मन के तारों को छू लेने की कला जानने वाला कोई संत. सितारों के तारों को झंकृत कर मानो छा गया हो प्रगति का संगीत व्योम में, ऐसा ही कोई सितार वादक माने कलाम. कलाम माने बच्चों के हृदय में बसा सफेद बालों वाला कोई सांता क्लॉज. जादूगर कोई जिसके उंगलियों के पोरों में ही विज्ञान की सारी कला है, जिसके उंगलियों के पोरों में हो विज्ञान की सारी कलाएं, जिसे बच्चों के सपनों में पंख लगाना आता हो, वही है कलाम। हाँ, कलाम माने वही, समय कुछ बिगाड़ नहीं सकता जिसका, ऐसा ही कोई इंसान माने कलाम, जो मृत्यु के बाद भी राज करेगा सदा हमारे दिलों में, राज करेगा सदा हमारे दिलों में।
Thank you so much. I think that's very beautifully written, Mr. Bhaskar. Thanks for sharing that with us. Now, Kalyani, I don't think one has seen these kind of reactions for anybody in a very long time. So, what would you really say? I think this really sums it up.
He has even inspired poetry.
Yes.
Imagine. I mean, by looking at the man, you don't think that he could inspire poetry, but he has inspired poetry. So, there is no doubt that he has touched the chord of many, many people. We don't know how many others have written, how many other poetry. We really don't know. This is one thing which has come to your knowledge. So, you know, you will have to wait and see what more happens. But the best tribute to him would be to dream big, as he has suggested.
Right.
And like Praveen is, you know, talking about, there should be more and more youth who should come forward and fulfill his dream. That would be the India which he had talked of, the Vision 2020, and
the
also
superpower that he spoke of.
And also, he was also a dreamer, you know, he was talking about Vision 2020, but he didn't say how you are going to go about. He was very fond of showing PowerPoint presentations also. So, to that extent, he was a dreamer. So, those dreams will have to be now fulfilled by people like Praveen.
That's right, absolutely. Well, we have another viewer. This is Mr. J.N. Rao from Tamil Nadu. Mr. Rao, welcome to Gender Discourse.
Thank you.
Yes,
Regarding
sir.
Abdul Kalam, it may be said that he was a great motivator, inspirer for school children with all his stellar leadership qualities. In school, we had learned that there was a President of the United States about whom it was said, from log cabin to the White House. Similarly, Dr. Abdul Kalam Sahab rose from a newspaper boy to the highest post of the United States as the President of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Rao. Well, folks, at this point, we'll have to slip into a very short break. When we come back, we'll take this discussion forward from where we left, and you still would be able to call us. Please note down our numbers, which are 1800115314 and 23035420. Today, we are talking about Kalam, the youth icon. Welcome back. You're watching Gender Discourse, and today we are talking about Kalam, the youth icon. Well, you can still call us, folks. Our lines are open. 1800115314 and 23035420 are our numbers. And having said that, we are joined by Dheeraj from Pathankot. If I'm getting your name correct, all right, we seem to have lost that connection. Okay, now, Anita, this discussion would be incomplete if we did not talk about Kalam's views about the women and as to what all can women really achieve. So, would you want to throw some light on that?
I think that's what he did sort of focus on many occasions. And he also spoke about 1/3 of the women parliamentarians. So, you know, when is the day when so many women will come into parliament? He also spoke about the fact that development would be different if women came and started thinking about policy making. And I think that was also important for women to start thinking on those lines, because often it happens that, you know, we just talk in terms of, okay, dream, do this, but we don't critically look at society, because that's important. And that's what I think the youth should do. Even in remembering him, I don't think we should just be eulogizing to the point that it almost becomes you know, unrealistic, but we should think of the times when he did engage with issues, remember them critically, and that's what I noticed that women have been talking about, and a lot of them have been blogging and writing that when they listened to what he was saying, how is it they were looking at society and thinking about their own role in that.
Right. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, Lottie, it is. I'm quoting it from somewhere where I've read about, you know, this statement from Dr. Kalam coming, that if you educate a man, you educate an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate the entire family and then the whole civilization.
That's not his saying, I think, but it
has
been
quoted,
yes,
you know, by him in one
okay.
of the you know, lectures or somewhere where he was writing about empowerment of women. And this shows, you know, his grasp over, you know, the issues of gender, the issues of inequality, and then how education can play a very, very, very significant, or you can say almost fundamental role. Because, you know, if you read at the number of questions that students have asked him, which are, you know, listed on one of the websites of Government of India, where students have asked him very naive questions, you know, that why there is partiality in school, and look at his answers. You know, they are really interesting to read. And this is where he says that education happens to be one of the fundamental or significant way to elevate poverty or hunger or whatever kind of social problems that we talk about. And here he is mixing the two things, education and women. And when he talks about such situation that empowerment of women is so essential for development of society, you know, so this is where we can see that he throughout his life laid emphasis on this dreaming, visioning, and the main instrument in that entire process is getting educated. And one of the students asked him, you know, that, sir, how do we contribute towards nation building or towards society? He said you can do two things. One is said that you go out and plant 5 plants. And the other one, he said that if you are in urban areas, you go to rural areas where there's no access to education or good facilities, you teach 5 people how to read and write. You know, so this shows that one is his connection with the nature and the physical world, and the second one is the important thing that we are discussing is education. That make people read and write, and that will help them flourish or grow later on in their lives.
That's so nice. Well, we again have with us Neeraj from Pathankot. So Neeraj, if you can hear me, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I want to share my experience. Many years ago, my son was quite little. He was younger, and in his school days, what happened, there used to be fancy dress competition. It was the child's, you know, first performance, and whatever I made him enact, he did not get the prize, and he was low in confidence. Second time also, he could not, you know, make out. The third time, when it was the final chance, I made him enact Abdul Kalam. And he got the first prize, you know, in that performance, which was the last year, you know, for his performance as in the fancy dress. So there was, you know, I was so happy, and all my family members, they said that really when you enacted like Abdul Kalam, so then, you know, he was all high on confidence, and till date now he has great impact of Dr. Abdul Kalam. Now he's a grown-up boy and he's studying in a professional college, and when I told him the other day that Dr. Kalam is no more, and he also knew, and the first reaction was that he said, oh, it is very bad, you know, he felt very sorry for this. And what I feel is that Dr. Abdul Kalam, he had a direct connect with the hearts and the minds of the people. And
absolutely, Neeraj, I agree with you completely, and I can understand what you're saying, that if just, you know, in a fancy dress competition, if he could strike a chord among people, then one can just imagine that as a real person, what is the kind of connection that he must have made. I think this is the point wherein I'd like to show you a few things what the common man really had to say about him. Here's the people's president.
हम अब्दुल कलाम की तरह एक्स-प्रेसिडेंट की तरह साइंटिस्ट बनना चाहते हैं, प्रेसिडेंट बनना चाहते हैं।
अभी बताओ, मुझे ना अब्दुल कलाम से ये इंफॉर्मेशन मिली है कि हमें हमेशा पढ़ाई करनी चाहिए और हमें बहुत बड़ा इंसान बनना चाहिए।
धरती माता के वो सच्चे सपूत थे, और ईश्वर करे इस प्रकार के सपूत बार बार इस धरती पर आएं और बाकी सबकी यात्रा को सुखद और सफल बनाएं।
APJ Abdul Kalam, he was a great personality, and he was epitome of simplicity, down to earth person, and his main emphasis was to educate the youth about nuclear science.
उनका मुंह तो देखने की एक ही सेकंड मिला, फिर भी वो भगवान को मानने वालों को भगवान है। मैं तो भगवान को मानते नहीं है, लेकिन वो अच्छा इंसान है, उनको मैं भगवान से और भी अच्छा मानता हूँ।
डॉक्टर अब्दुल कलाम साहब को मैं भगवान मानता हूँ इस देश के लिए, और एक बहुत बड़ा मान है।
जैसे मदर टेरेसा जी हैं, उनको जैसे लोग याद करते हैं, वैसे हमारे अब्दुल कलाम जी को याद लोग करेंगे, और उनकी सच्ची श्रद्धांजलि यही है कि हम सभी लोगों को, ह्यूमन बीइंग को, एक उनके आदर्श राहों पर हमें चलना चाहिए। दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का नाम है।
Well, so that's the kind of love that people of this country really have for Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Now, Praveen, coming to you again. Now, since we are talking about him today, so you have all these good things to say. But are you all going to carry this legacy forward? I mean, what are your plans for the future, if I can ask you?
Actually, I have my own project apart from the studies. That one thing that I would like to share with you, that people, that students in IITs and in other colleges as well, they've started to think beyond the academics.
Great.
And for me, I have personally started. I have been working on a project for last 1.5 years, and it's an integrated healthcare solution.
Okay.
Wherein users can connect to doctors, labs, pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
And actually, we have started out. I mean, we will be launching next month.
Oh, that's great.
So I think yes, we will be taking the responsibility, and people are taking responsibility. So yes, we'll make a impact. So in a way that we think that we can do. So if I'm good at technical thing, so I would make a positive impact on the technical part. So people, if there are apart from technical, there are other branches. So people would be doing positive impact on that particular field.
Absolutely.
So that's I think.
So kudos to you on that. So Kalyani, if this is the kind of impact that he has left on the youth, then I think not just something right, the man must have done greatly right.
You see, during his years as the president and even later, he has interacted with about 18 million youth, either face to face or through internet. And he was also, replying to them all. It was one of the major things which he did when he was in Rashtrapati Bhavan also. There was a separate team for that. So that team would also give him all the inputs, all those things. So that shows that, he was able to. And the other thing is, now today everybody is talking about youth power in India. Yes. We have about 65% of the Indian population is youth. He had realized it even about 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, that the youth power should be tapped. So that is why he started talking about youth, and also educate 5 families and things like that. So he started actually implementing it.
That's right.
So that is another thing you have to see. But as she said, it doesn't, everything has not gone according to plan.
Right.
Sometimes he is also met with failure. He always said that if you fail also, you should not give up hope. Then start with more vigor and more effort to succeed again. Only then you can succeed. So there are things one has to learn from his life also. Imagine a poor boy from Rameshwaram who had no money to pay for his college in Chennai when he moved there. And his father was a very poor boatman. So from where he had come, and then he had gone abroad.
Right. I think his journey is commendable, from the temple town to the temple of democracy. I think it's a huge leap that he really made. Well, folks, time for us to slip into yet another break in the program, but we are going to come back very soon, so do stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Gender Discourse, and today we are talking about Kalam, the youth icon. Okay, now Anita, we've talked about, he was very clear about his vision and about everything. But now the people who have to carry that legacy, do you really think that they will be also able to visualize in the same manner as he did? Because it could be a tall order.
That's true, and I think they need support systems, they need collectives where they don't think in competitive ways about, what they want to do and achieve, but they think really in terms of what society can benefit from. And also in terms of, like we were discussing, that in terms of critically looking, critically engaging with issues which need to be changed, not just saying that, everything is fine and we'll do it through just streamlining things or making things efficient. I think that's more important for our youth. Also moving, what's more important is not enough people are engaging with youth. Like when we were young, there were many platforms when we engaged with children from different backgrounds, different castes, religions, economic classes. That's really reduced now. People who come from one kind of a background only get to meet people from that background. They don't look beyond that.
Correct.
I think we need many more ways to give those platforms, so adults have to also work and support those kinds of things, because the society is very segregated. Even Delhi, children don't have parks where they're playing with all kinds of socio-economic backgrounds. They're not doing that.
That's right.
So I think adults will need to respond to this kind of a need and this kind of aspiration and give that support to the youth and to young people. And certainly youth will have to think much more, so that how do they break these kind of segregating grooves within which many of us are falling.
That's right. Now Praveen, tell me, did he, because he spoke extensively about how to deal with failures, so did you have the opportunity of really listening to that part of his story?
Yeah, actually, I'm so much inspired by him that I started a venture, and actually before starting a venture, I did a project, and actually I failed at it.
Okay.
But then I thought, okay, if I failed at something, it doesn't mean that I stop doing other projects.
Right.
So I started my own very extensive project.
What is this project?
So this project is an integrated healthcare solution wherein users connect to doctors, labs, pharmaceuticals. Even the government is pushing for the digital thing.
Right.
They want each and every piece of information to be digitized. Now I'll let you know what is the power of integration. Now suppose that I have a data from a particular area wherein the data reflects that particular set of disease is prevalent over there. Okay, so I can with other data I can just manipulate कि वहाँ पे ये बीमारी क्यों हो रही है.
Okay.
Like in a poor area, in a slum area, if I get to know that cervical cancer ज़्यादा हो रहा है
और tuberculosis
tuberculosis हो रहा है, तो if I get to know the other data as well कि वहाँ पे पानी खराब है या कुछ और खराब है, I can get to know कि exactly what the problem is. So I can sort out the data, वो sort out the problem. So this is the what we are actually so this is what actually I'm looking to.
So we just hope you succeed, and I'm sure Kalam would have been hugely proud of you. So that's the true inspiration, I think, that you've really gathered. All right, now Sheetal, see, so this is the impact that we are really talking about today, and also we talked about the women and all that. But I think coming on from where he left, failures. Now this is something that he talked about, and he said that failure is not something which should set you back, because you will know that which are the ways which are not going to work, so which means you have learned something even through that failure. So do you want to contribute to that?
Lottie, as a sociologist, I would say that somehow there's a general prevalent attitude in society that we tend to celebrate success. But somehow we do not train our young people or children at home that how to embrace failure as well. And in one of the statements, Dr. Kalam also said that do not read success stories, read the failures so that you can learn lessons from them. Easier said than done. That's one thing. Now, if you look at a mere statistics suicide rate, they go up during the month of June or July. One obvious reason is because of the failure in examination, boards and results and all these things. Now, what happens if there are two neighbors, one person's son gets 99 or 80%, they celebrate, all these things are happening, and the other one, even if he has set his target, say 90%, and he gets 85, that not achieving 5% gap is seen as failure, and the child goes into rejection and dejection, and he may or she may commit suicide, and sometimes they do it. Now, the problem with our generation is that we place so much of value on achieving.
That's right.
And achievement that is measurable. Measurable in terms of, say, how much salary, in terms of pay package, then you are successful.
Right.
In marriage market, your salary, your height, weight, everything is reduced to some ponderables, measurable entities. And that happens with youth also, कि आपको कितने marks मिले and all these things.
And now, which college or which institution.
Even the colleges are ranked, the status, the prestige, वहाँ crowd कैसा है. Now, what is this? In this rat race somewhere, the youth is losing the connect with reality. That it's fine to study in XYZ college as equivalent to, say, in Stephens or ABC, whatever, if you do not want to take any names. So it's the issue is to get educated, to learn. It is not from where you do, it is what you do. So somewhere we as a generation is also pushing or pressurizing the young generation so much towards, these, if you do this, then it is good. And look at the parents, if you achieve this much, we'll buy you a watch.
Yes, correct. And also you see it in the advertisement world, and you see it just about everywhere.
It's all promoting, excellence at the cost of the peace and the humanity to exist and flourish.
That's right. I think those are very important points that she's made, Kalyani. What would you like to say that finally, because we need to give out a message that really Kalam, what he would have been happy doing so. So what do you think should be that point which should really touch people's hearts?
I think Kalam's example should produce more Kalams in the coming generations, in the coming years. I think there should be many more Kalams who would make India proud.
That is right. Yes, final comments.
I think many more people doing things across the kinds of barriers, across the societal areas that they come from. We can't have too many presidents, so obviously people should not just aim for that position, but should aim for doing things for each other, for across caste, religion, gender, things like that. And that's important.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned gender, because very quickly I'd just like to mention that even though he was a Muslim, he could recite the Gita very well. So he was this one person who one did not really think in terms of religion.
He was an atheist.
Yes. Final comments, sir.
From my side, I would like to say, have a dream and you should believe in that dream, because if you believe in it, one day it will be true.
Absolutely.
Because that's what I'm living. Because I dreamed and I'm actually trying to strive it.
Great. Yes.
It comes from Gita only, what he used to read, with so much of interest. Karmanya vadhika raste. You should have consistency. You should have self-determination. Try to achieve no matter what happens. That is something which is in store, but still your effort should be directed towards what you dream, what you vision, and not just for yourself, but for the entire community.
Absolutely. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you to four of you for coming today and for remembering Kalam in such a beautiful manner. Thank you so much. So, well, folks, a true hero, a true son of the nation, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was a man who touched many hearts. Known as the Missile Man, he was humble to the core. A man who was above religion, who was a Muslim but could recite the Gita as easily and effectively. There never was and never will be a man like you, Kalam Sahab. We bow our heads in your reverence. You will continue to inspire generations to come. May we follow the path that you showed us and take the nation to greater heights. So thank you so much for watching. Join me next week when I'll be taking up another issue. Till then, this is Lottie Alaric saying goodbye and take very good care of yourselves.